Chair will eventually sit there. Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Welcome to the initial meeting of the CWMP Ad Hoc Committee. My name is Rob Steen. I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting until such time as we have a chair and vice chair. Before we get going, we have a couple things we need to get out of the way. First off, Chris has an announcement to make.
This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else, or in this case, Rob must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known.
Is anybody recording the meeting? Seeing none, we will proceed. The next item of business will be a roll call. Chris?
As with all roll calls, please say here when I say your name. Luis O'Neill. Here. Glenn Snell.
Here.
Butch Roberts. Here. Tom Camberberry. I know he's not here. He previously told us. Rob O'Leary. Rob? Nope. Z. Crocker?
Here.
Brian Hughes?
Here.
Scott Horsley?
Here.
Paul Neary?
Here.
Oh. Gordon Starr?
He's not here yet.
And Chris Clark?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we leave tonight, if everybody could check in with Chris, too, to make sure that the contact information we have for you is correct and the best contact information possible. We were given a list of email addresses, some of which we knew were pretty much had typo errors in them. So just everybody could check in with Chris on the way out the door. That'd be great and much appreciated. One other item of housekeeping before we get too deep into this. If you hadn't already gotten so, there's papers over here for you to pick up. Some of which we'll be referring to later on in the program that you'll need to be able to fill out and do. A couple of them are there for your own convenience, and you'll hear about those as we go forward. So if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, let me know. I can bring you a set as we go through the rest of this stuff. Next item up is Dan Santos to welcome you all officially to the Ad Hoc Committee.
Thank you, Rob. Welcome, everyone. As Rob said, my name's Dan Santos. I'm the Director of Public Works. I think I know everyone, or have met them once or twice. So I wanted to just talk about what our charge is from the Town Council, and we've been asked to facilitate and coordinate a new ad hoc committee that's been put together for the purposes of working on our 5-year update on our comprehensive wastewater management plan. We started this effort back in 2015 when the Cape Cod Commission undertook and really put the brakes on wastewater planning on the Cape for a brief period while they put together what was called the 208 plan, which is a water quality management plan in compliance with the Federal Clean Water Act. And they basically coordinated the town's response so that as a region, we could submit to the Environmental Protection Agency our planning document or our plans to comply with that Clean Water Act. And so that effort went on for several years. So in 2015, in Barnstable, we had been doing wastewater planning frankly, for decades. There have been many efforts. There was a Citizen Advisory Committee, a CAC that was involved, used lots of consultants over the years, and had brought the town to a particular point in the process. In 2015, at the direction of the council, we established a Water Resources Advisory Committee, and the purpose of that committee was to engage our citizens in a process to complete the comprehensive wastewater management plan, get it submitted to the State Department of Environmental Protection, and get it approved by the regulatory agencies. And that also includes, it's not a regulatory agency, but the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, also known as MEPA, you'll hear a lot about here. And they they coordinate the comment and response for all state agencies. So we met over really a 2-year period and developed our comprehensive wastewater management plan using our own resources for the most part. So in-house. It still is unheard of. Most communities do this with consultants because they don't have the resources on their own staffs to do this work. With the support of the town manager and the town council, back at that time, we convinced them that we would like to undertake this in-house for a couple of reasons. One, that we could do it less expensively than using consultants. And two, we could do it more flexibly. And I think it's certainly proven out in my mind to be that way. We were able to get this plan done completely in-house. We saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we continue to do a lot of this work with our own in-house staff. We hired professionals in engineering, water resources, financing, construction, and allied fields for the purpose of pulling this together. We have 8 professional engineers on our Department of Public Works. We basically have a small engineering firm in the town of Barnstable. And I think that's been very successful. And so when we realized after our plan was approved in 2021, we included in that a 5-year look. So that's part of our adaptive management of our comprehensive wastewater management plan. So every 5 years, we are reviewing what's occurred and with the purpose or the idea of making changes if necessary and adapt to changing circumstances, technologies, and improve the plan. Our plan is 3 10-year phases, but these are 5-year looks. And so this is our first 5-year look, and honestly, it came very quickly. That 5-year update is due the end of next year. So December of 2025 is our 5-year plan. So the work of this committee, which is starting now, will conclude with the submission of that plan in December 2025. I expect that the majority of the work will be done more on the front end. Lots of updates, lots of discussion. We'll bring a lot of things to your attention so that we can move through this process. Our goal is, in addition to getting this update completed by the end of next year, there are lots of policy decisions that still remain for the town council to address relative to wastewater management in the town of Barnstable. That's all related to the comprehensive wastewater management plan. And so we will be bringing to this committee lots of things that we need you to wrestle with, discuss, and make recommendations. Ultimately, your goal is to make policy recommendations to the town council for their action. And that's what we'll be assisting you to do over the next weeks and months and year, honestly. So I have asked Rob Steen, who's the Assistant Director of Public Works, to head this up for my department. So you'll see a lot of all of us, and my staff will introduce themselves in a few moments. But Rob's really going to be the primary lead for all of you on getting this committee from this point to our ultimate submission. Again, the goal is citizen engagement, and that's being done through you all, but we're also on the Access channel. We will be on the website, and we have our Water Resources website. There'll be lots of opportunity for citizens to participate in this committee, and we hope to have a lot of input. There's been lots of discussion on many of these policy issues already, so I, for one, look forward to wrestling with some of these issues and making recommendations so that we can move forward with completing our comprehensive wastewater management plan in the manner that we intended to and as economically as possible. So With that, I thank you again all for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Rob, and then he will get you through the rest of your meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Chris, just for note, Rob O'Leary has arrived. Okay. So the next aspect of this is just to do introductions. I think many people know each other, but in case you don't, I feel like it's appropriate for us all to sort of introduce ourselves, say a little bit about yourself. If anyone is shy, I can ask you questions. What's your favorite dog? What was your favorite childhood memory? Things like that. Rather not do that, so please come up with stuff on your own. What we will do is we will start with the staff. There's a number of support staff that are here that will be part of this committee from the support side. I will introduce them, or they will introduce themselves. They will come up to the mic so that they can be heard on camera, that mic or this mic, whichever you prefer. Introduce yourself, tell us a little about yourself, what position you're in, and what you're really, really looking forward to about this. And then at that point in time, we'll pass it over to you. I have one member who is absent right now, but did send a bio that would he like me to read, so I will start with that, and then we'll go through the rest of you, and that'll give you a sense of tone in terms of how we're doing this. So, first up is either that side of the row or this side of the row. Who wants to do? Griffin, come on up. You're the next contestant on. Introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Griffin Bowden. I'm the town engineer for the town of Barnstable. Been with the Department of Public Works since 2017. And my first position with the town of Barnstable actually was as the water and sewer project manager. So literally on day one, I dove headfirst into this project, right? So looking forward to working with you all to develop the adaptive management plan, seek some policy decisions here. And that's what I got. Thanks.
Next up, Amber Unruh. Make sure the mic's on.
Oh, now the green light is on. Hello, everyone. Amber Unruh, Senior Project Manager of Special Projects for the DPW. Special projects, for, I guess, the purposes of this committee really pertains to the water quality monitoring programs in the town of Barnstable, including estuary monitoring, lakes and ponds monitoring, cyanobacteria monitoring. I also manage the town's Ponds and Lakes Management Plan program, where we conduct intensive studies for specific ponds each year and put together a management plan on what solutions can be implemented to improve water quality for our lakes and ponds. And I also manage the comprehensive wastewater management plans, non-traditional solution projects, which I'm sure we will discuss a lot more going forward, so I'll just leave it at that. But generally looking forward to working with you guys as we prepare the update for the comprehensive wastewater management plan. Thanks.
Next will be Michelle Trask. You were on. There you go.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michelle Trask. I've been working with the DPW probably for about 4 years now. I work in the front office, so if you ever call or you come in the front office, I'm usually the first person you see, trying to help everybody out with whatever they may need, whether it's highway related. We've been getting a lot of calls about CDBMP and when sewer connections are going to happen. So this is kind of interesting for me to be a part of because I've never been part of an ad hoc committee. So I'm looking forward to it. So if you need anything, let me know. Thanks.
So in this context, Michelle and Chris, who you introduce next, are the admin support for this committee. So minutes, things of that nature will come out of these two, scheduling of meetings, things of that nature. So again, don't know who the chair is yet and the vice chair currently, but who they will be working with a lot in terms of facilitating these meetings and planning these meetings and stuff will be Michelle and Chris. Those will be your sort of front end people. Dan, do you feel like you need to say anything more than what you've already said?
No.
Okay. Chris?
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Gadd. I'm the communications assistant for the DPW. Following the trend of everyone saying how long they've been here, I've been here just over a month. Super excited to get on the be working with this committee, really hit the ground running when first starting this position. And it's been great so far. I'm just looking forward to more productive conversations and helping to enact the CWMP.
So what you'll find is one of the things Chris is going to be doing, so Kelly Colopy, who many of you have met before and have seen what she can do, is out on maternity leave. Chris is her assistant. We're really excited to get the two of them back together again come January because it'll be a pretty powerful little group. But during the time that we're here, Chris is going to be doing things in terms of trying to find ways to get information to you easily and then also get that information out easily and all the sort of visual aspects of that. So he'll be managing that. Let me take a minute to sort of introduce different aspects of myself. My name is Rob Steen. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works. I'll be facilitating these meetings. As has been introduced in the past, my background, I was a consultant for 13 years in wastewater doing this kind of thing for municipalities before I came over to the municipality. Here in another context too, I'm also the project manager running the plant projects and the effluent project. So between the three of us, between myself, Amber, and Griffin, you have the three project managers in the room at all times with you that are running three different aspects. All the horizontal work, all the sewer work's being run through Griffin. I'm running the plant work and all the effluent work. Amber's running all the non-traditionals and innovative alternative work at this point in time. So we will be with you throughout this process and throughout this conversation so that you'll have those three aspects with us through that conversation. Okay, that is the end of the staff introductions. Before we get into your folks up on the dais, let me read Tom's. He sent this along and asked that I read it in as his introduction. Tom Camerari couldn't be here tonight. He regretted that fact and wanted me to read this in. And this is his introduction, and I quote, "I designed and conducted a hydrologic investigation in 1983 while working for the Barnstable Department of Public Works for my master's thesis, which determined that the planning and increase of discharge effluent to water pollution control facility to 4.2 MGD was a major problem. At the Cape Cod Commission, I was reviewed and worked with the town's Department of Public Works to attain MEPA and Cape Cod Commission approvals with practical conditions for its 1993 and 2007 CWMPs. I also provided technical review for the approval of the CWMPs for Chatham, Orleans, Falmouth, and other initial planning and technical studies. I coordinated the MEP project for the Cape Cod Commission, and in 2015 was the staff technical lead for the 208 plan update and its subsequent iterations, including targeted watershed management plans. I coordinated 6 regional USGS modeling projects for Cape Cod, the last one being an investigation to evaluate proposed water supply pumping from the Hyannis Ponds complex and interaction with surface waters at with the Water Pollution Control Facility. For many years, I chaired the town's Water Quality Committee, comprised of the town's water superintendents, and oversaw the process of delineating the Zone 2s. At the commission, I spearheaded the county's initial proactive response to PFAS contamination at the Fire Training Academy, and I am presently engaged in community response. I recently worked with the DPW and the Water Pollution Control Facility staff to establish a real-time water level monitoring program around the Water Pollution Control Facility to evaluate groundwater mounding. I look forward to working with the staff and the committee in any role as we undertake this town-defining project. Many thanks, Tom." So that is his introduction. If I could start around the room, I will start on this side and move to this way. So Glenn.
My name is Glenn Snell. I'm the Assistant Water Superintendent at ComWater. Been in water for about 30 years, 15 years at Com. I'm usually the guy on the side of the road getting the job done, trying not to get hit by the cars.
Thank you. Louise?
Louise O'Neill, and I am currently sitting on the Hyannis Water Board, and was asked if I'd be interested in this. And I'm retired from Com Fire. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Hughes. Live in Hyannis on Greenwood Avenue, which is germane because it backs right up into Stewart's Creek. And We get the effluent flow underneath our property into Stewart's Creek from the stormwater, from the wastewater management plant. And half a mile from us is Aunt Betty's Pond with the highest concentration of PFAS in the Cape. So I've been an engineer all my life, and I believe that's why Felicia Pan had asked me to join this committee. I worked with Save Twin Brooks to restore the estuary since 2013 with some detours to fight against QMC. And now we're back to trying to restore the estuary and protect the beaches. And just want to mention that a few years ago, we had we had a tour at Dan Santos's wastewater management treatment plant, which is very informative. And I strongly suggest we all get together and do that again. And then just last week, my wife and I were on the last tour of Cape Cod Base. This is the last one of the year. And we saw, one of the 4 stops was we saw their wastewater treatment plant, which was pretty impressive. And they mentioned the Air Force also has a treatment plant on their side for their PFAS problem. So it's something we may want to coordinate with them on.
Rob?
Good evening. My name's Rob O'Leary. I'm a history professor at Mass Maritime Academy, and I was a state senator for the Cape and Islands. And I've been involved in the town forever.
And being modest, since you were the primary force behind the 0% interest rate loans and things of that nature at one point.
I was a commissioner at the county as well, yeah.
Councilor O'Leary?
Yes, my name's Paul Neary. I am now 7 years into town council, and water is really kind of one of my primary focuses. I've got a small water filtration company. I'm in the trades now, but I grew up here on the Cape. I'm 54 years now in Centerville. Grew up drinking the pond water out of the bogs and the bog water, skating around. But we all, I know, have certainly seen some of the way our local ponds have changed over the years. They've deteriorated over the years with algae, and then obviously now we've got groundwater concerns that are kind of in front of us. This has been kind of a long-awaited hope, I think, this committee. I watch and see all of the moving pieces and parts that go on in the DPW, and with all of the efforts that we're putting forth to try to get ahead of not only supply but protection of contaminants and those type of things. So this should be great. We've got coming ahead of us very soon some, let's just say, concerning conversations that we'll have to have with the residents of the town and how we can continue to support and pay for these projects. So this is a long time coming and looking forward to it.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you very much. Chris Clark. I'm in my second term as town councilor from Precinct 11. As a youngster, I grew up about a block away from the Connecticut River, a very foul Connecticut River, and my mom took her 6 kids to a free activity that was opening up one of the first sewage treatment plants with young Ted Kennedy cutting the ribbon. So I grew up with knowing how we fouled our resources. And when I graduated from college and came to the Cape for the summer, I was astounded how little regard the Cape Codders had for their pristine waters, that we could walk out into the water and come home with dinner. That wasn't an experience I had as a youngster. So what I have come to terms with is that we don't know we've got till it's gone. So I have a strong feeling that we need to preserve our water or rescue our water resources. And I worked for the town of Barnstable in the 90s as one of the water testers, as an employee for natural resources doing shellfish propagation. And I have seen the deterioration over the decades of our estuaries. What used to be cleaner, sandier water is now muckier and cloudier. So I do understand that we need to invest in turning the ship around, and I'm happy to be part of the esteemed body here to do so. Thank you.
Scott?
Hey, I'm Scott Horsley, and excited to be here. I am a water resources consultant. I'm working for several towns in the Cape right now, Wellfleet, Truro, Tisbury, done a little bit of work for the town of Barnstable. I kind of had Amber's job over at the Cape Cod Commission. I served as a consultant on the 208 plan, and I was in charge of the non-traditional technologies there. So that was kind of my focus in helping put that document together. Since then, I've been working with a number of towns, as I mentioned. I also am an adjunct faculty member at both Tufts and Harvard, where I teach graduate courses in water resources management.
Thank you. Z?
Z. Cronker, I'm Executive Director of the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. I'm a layperson. I went to school here at town of Barnstable High School, and it's really that experience growing up here, being able to fish and see into the water 10, 15 feet, going, leaving, having a career, coming back more than 50 years later and saying, what happened? What happened to the water? What happened to the lakes and ponds? What happened around here? And so that really drove me to get involved with a nonprofit that I now help run to try to understand what can we do to correct the problem. Took a long time to get here. We all know that. We're working on some great, more traditional technology. So the work that we've done at Barnstable Clean Water has been more focused on non-traditional technology, specifically alternative septic systems to replace Title V systems and cesspools, and also restoration efforts around cranberry bogs to restore them, turn them back into wetlands, which we believe can be very successful at helping to clean the water. But our main view has been we all collectively need to do many things. Municipal expansion is going to be critically important, vital. I'm so pleased and happy to be on the committee and work toward understanding more about what we can do in that regard, even as we tackle alternative ways to look at cleaning the water and make progress to make sure the next generation, the generation that Amber's just made a contribution to, will have clean waters on Cape Cod. And Griffin also has a young child. That's really what this is all about. That's how long it's going to take to fix it. Thank you.
Butch? Yeah, Butch Roberts. Is it on?
So I'm Butch Roberts. We've been recreating at Middle Pond in Marston's Mills since 1975 or so. About 9 years ago or so, retired and decided this was really where we wanted to stay. One of the prime motivators for us is the fact that it attracts our grandchildren and our kids to come and spend time with us. During the last 6 years or so, I've been very active with the Indian Ponds Association. And whereas we've been very fortunate that those ponds are very clean, relatively speaking, it's made me very aware of the real nutrient problem that we have, and that it appears to have been ignored, unfortunately, for a large number of years. And so I'm very anxious to see us make this a real comprehensive plan. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be a member of this committee. So, thank you.
So before we move on to the next item, I want to thank everybody for being here. What's about to happen over probably the next 6 to 8 months, for some of you that have already had a lot of exposure to this may not be as steep of a learning curve, but for those of you that haven't been as exposed, or at least not been as exposed to what we've been doing, it's going to be a pretty steep learning curve. There's a lot that's going to be coming at you, because we need to get the committee up to speed so that we're all sort of at the same level of being able to have a conversation about a topic matter and then be able to have that conversation. So I am humbled by the amount of time that you've all committed to doing this, and acknowledge that, and want to thank you all for doing that. I do not expect this to be an easy lift. However, I also hope that it is a lift that is rewarding and one that you feel at the end of it has been worth your time. And if at some point in time it's not, please let me know, because that's not the goal. Okay. Next order of business is to get me out from behind the microphone and get someone else here. So we need to elect a vice chair and a chair. I will walk us through that process. I think at this point, what we will do is do the vice chair first and then do the chair. I will take nominations for the vice chair, either if you'd like to nominate yourself or if you'd like to nominate somebody else. Chris, if you could record these for me, please, because I can't write and talk at the same time. Anybody interested in being the vice chair?
I nominate Bruce for vice chair.
Okay, we have a nomination for vice chair, Bruce. Bruce, which Bruce? You mean Brian? You were looking at Brian. I was gonna say, so we're gonna call you Bruce the rest of the way, or how's this gonna go? Brian, are you okay with being nominated? Anybody else like?
Yes.
Anybody else want to be nominated for the vice chair or wish to put themselves forward for vice chair? All right, seeing none. Let's do this as a vote. I'm not going to do it as a roll call. We'll do hands, please. I'm not a Robert's Rule person. I apologize if this is not perfectly correct, but all those in favor of Brian, not Bruce, as the vice chair, please say aye. All right. Any opposed? Thank you. I would say that's unanimous. So Brian is our vice chair. All right, now for chair. Who wants to be nominated for or puts themselves forward for chair?
I nominate Scott for chair.
Anybody else wish to be nominated for chair? Seeing none. All those in favor of Scott Horsley, you sure your name's not Bruce? No. All those in favor of Scott Horsley being the chair of the committee, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, so Scott and Brian, why don't you guys move to the middle? At this point in time, Scott, do you have an agenda in front of you? All right. Do you want to administer it from here on out, or do you want me to just to keep rolling? That's your call. It's your committee at this point.
You're doing a great job. Most of those items are yours.
Okay. Have a seat. Okay. Next item of business was to sort of go through sort of what was the town council's intent. Dan talked about that a little bit already. DPW's intent for the committee, and just really start to talk about what's the purpose. And I think what you'll find today's meeting is really about sort of procedural things. It's about introduction. We're not really going to go into any one of the topic matters at all. It's really about getting us up and running and getting going, hopefully getting out of here at about the hour point. I'm not keeping you late tonight. There will be long meetings in the future. This will be a chair, vice chair discussion, but at some point in time, you may choose to have more than one meeting a month. We have suggested a meeting a month at a minimum, but I do remember with the RAC, there was a point in time when the pace started to pick up and we were going 2 a month for a while there as we were chewing through things. I will leave that to obviously your discussions in terms of how you want to handle that. What I will tell you is there's a lot of information. And so there's a lot that needs to be digested and come through the committee at some point in time. All right, so I was not given from town council a specific indication of what their vision is for this committee. Do either councilor want to speak to that? Or is it literally just, we want to put the committee together to support the DPW and then we'll just go to the DPW one? What's your feeling on that matter?
Sorry about that. Nor were we actually given specific instructions. However, we know what's ahead of us, right? Yeah, there's just a resolve, right?
Okay.
So I'm looking just generally at the topics for discussion, which is pretty in-depth, obviously, right out of the box for everybody. But I would think that we should move forward with letting the chair kind of run it and then take it from there.
All right. So
Excuse me,
DPW's
Rob.
wishes for the, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just have one. Commander's intent, could you explain that?
All right. So one of these y'all will learn about me pretty quickly is I spent 30 years in the military. I'm a retired captain from the United States Navy. So my lingo tends to cross back and forth between civilian and Navy talk, and I apologize. I will do that a lot. I also tend to talk in acronyms, which is why Lynn started writing that glossary form, which you all have. That came because when I was doing the traveling road show, people weren't, that's my bad. So I apologize. Commander's intent was really just sort of to say, okay, the committee was formed. What's the intent of the committee? what's the vision for the committee? So it has some sense of its right and left lateral limits and what it wants to do with that. Okay. So what DPW thought, and I know there was resolve of it, it was written by legal, which is why I'm less understanding of whether that's the town council's thinking or not. What DPW's perspective on this is that, look, we're coming into the 5-year update. We feel like there was benefit with the RAC back in the first time we went through this, having the RAC there, and being able to sort of work through items with the RAC and talk through items with the RAC. There was also a sense of legitimacy when we went to get it approved that the RAC was a part of that process. So we felt that a committee such as that would be beneficial. And so that's the first part of what you see up on the screen, which is sort of diving back into the CWMP, looking at the CWMP, figuring out what's changed since the RAC, and then particularly of interest would be when we did the RAC, the alternatives were not nearly where they are now. And if you read the CWMP, it very much acknowledges from the very get-go adaptive management. It's always anticipated that the CWMP will be a living, breathing document and will adapt as technologies change, as regulations change, et cetera. Every 5 years, we get an opportunity to do this. So one of the things that I'm interested in, and others can speak for themselves if they have other things they're interested in, but that I'm interested in is trying to get into a more robust discussion. Now that we have a better sense of what the alternatives are, particularly IA systems and things of that nature, we didn't really have them at our disposal last time. What can we do with them? How would we do that? How do we either supplement the existing plan or utilize them in the existing plan? I also think that the Board of Health's position may be monitoring as well, though I can't speak for them, and at some point we'll get them in here to talk to you about their position on generally approved versus provisionally approved systems. Where that comes down to is whether we can mandate them versus ask people to do it. So those kinds of questions come on the table. So I think the first part of the committee is really sort of looking at the CWMP, actually familiarize yourself with the CWMP, look at it, look at what opportunities there are out there, what some of the different technologies are out there, look at what's changed, and then figure out what we want to wrap into our next 5-year plan. Remembering it's a 5-year bite. That 5 years from now, we'll get another bite. And 5 years after that, we'll get another bite. We don't have to foresee what's going to happen 25 years from now in this update, because every 5 years, there'll be a bite at this. So it's really, what do we want to do over this next 5 years, and how do we want to do that? And how do we want to modify? There's another aspect of this, and Dan spoke to it earlier, which is the CWMP, by definition of being a very new thing that's going on, is generating policy questions that need to be made at levels above what DPW can make. And one of the hopes for this committee is it's a place to vet some of those. As an example, we made the arbitrary decision that when we're going into roads, we're going to pave them curb to curb. That's never been codified by anybody other than DPW saying that's the right thing to do. If we're going to rip up someone's road and put a pipe in it, instead of leaving an ugly trench patch, we'll pave it curb to curb. That probably should at least some point in time have town council opine that, yeah, they like that idea or don't like that idea. Discussions about grinder pumps and how grinder pumps are handled. Discussions about IAs and how IAs are handled. Those types of things all can generate the private roads discussion that you guys are having right now. A lot of that's being driven by CWMP coming along and dealing with that. So there's different items of that nature that are out there that I think, and this is just my opinion, Rob Steen's, the council would benefit from a robust discussion here about them and then a recommendation to council that then can finish that discussion or mature that discussion to wherever they want it to go. So from my perspective, those are sort of the two big sort of buckets that this committee will be addressing over the next period of time. Dan or Griffin or Amber or Michelle or Chris, anybody have anything they want to add to that? Okay, you're going to leave me up here all by myself. Okay, got it. Yeah, you'll hear hoorah a lot too. That's the other thing. So that's kind of what we thought about. Are there any questions on that, or does anybody want to have any discussion on that?
I guess I'd like to...
Your mic, I don't think you're...
Just go back and explain maybe the difference or the connection between the CWMP and the new watershed regs that are in place at the state level and how that's interfacing and where we're at on that, and maybe some background's needed for some people, I'm not sure, but.
So what I would ask is that we do that next meeting.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do between this meeting and the next meeting is assign you a whole lot of homework. And I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. There were a number of presentations that were given to town council this past spring, a number of workshops that were given to town council this past spring that went through all of that in depth. I will warn you, it's literally two four-hour bites. They're not quick, they're not fast. But what that will bring you through, the first set of those is sort of the main subject. Two of the speakers are in this room, actually. Z. Crocker and Amber both spoke at it, talking about different sort of demand signal stuff. And then after that came presentations from Griffin, myself, and Kelly that talked about the CWMP, how it was formed, how it fits, where it's going now, and then what we're doing on the plant and stuff like that. So after we have those two under our belts, then I'd like to come back to how does the CWMP fit in the watershed plan. I could do that now, but I could spend another hour and a half doing it. And I think we're better off once we get into the agendas in the next subsequent meetings with time in between for people to look at some stuff to kind of chew through that then. Is that okay, sir? Or do you want to?
That's fine.
I just don't want to get too deep into it now and have people at different points. Good.
Procedural question. Are we getting minutes taken?
Young Mr. Gadd's doing the minutes. Anything else on that issue?
You know, I'll chime in on one thing. So some guidance in terms of our overall mission in terms of thinking about a couple of things. I think about technology, which we've talked about. I think about time. In other words, how quickly do we try to implement things? And money. And so are all those underneath part of this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, I think, and again, speak up if you feel otherwise, but the intent has been, yeah, it's a re-conversation on all of that. All of that's relevant to the conversations we're going to have in here. Because there may be, you know, as an example, there may be this awesome widget that's going to be just the greatest thing in the world, but if it costs $8 billion per, that's going to inform whether the town adopts that and says that Mrs. McGillicuddy has to adopt it. You know, so all of those are relevant. Or if it takes 50 years to do what it's supposed to do, you know, that's all relevant in that conversation. So I think all of those factors, as we're talking through the different aspects, will come into this. Other questions on that? Okay.
And I have one other question on that. So given that, do we have the ability to call people before us, for instance, and have conversations? Mark Milne, for instance?
Yep. Yeah, well, Mark would be remote and stuff, and we got to talk through the hybrid piece of that.
Yeah.
But what the intent was, if you go into like the second and third meetings, was to bring guest speakers in to talk to different aspects. As an example, there's this smart fellow named Horsley that does UD toilets out at the test center that we might want to come in if we want to have a conversation about UD toilets and have him come talk to us about UD toilets. Something of that nature. You know, there's different people like that. I know Ed Eichner said he'd be happy to come back in to talk about the MEP modeling and what's involved with that. He was part of that presentation you're going to watch in homework, so you may feel like now we got what we need out of that, but you may want to have additional conversations with him. Up to the point where if you want to have DEP come in and talk about whatever's going on with whatever it is that you're interested in with that, they've been here, they've spoken to the council, but if you feel like there's an additional conversation you have, we can bring them back. So from our perspective, we'll bring in whomever we need to bring in. And I've actually had people say they want to come speak to you. Bruce Walton wants to come talk to you. You know, people like that want to come in and talk. So at some point, it may be a conversation between the committee and the chair and the vice chair to say, we only have X amount of time. You know, where are we focusing it and how are we doing it and stuff. So, but yes, I don't believe there's anything off the table in terms of who can or can't speak to us. Other questions on that? Okay. So the next piece of this is sort of just gone through sort of what we've sort of proposed for future meetings. I'll sort of, this is just us saying what we think. Obviously, there's now a chair and a vice chair, which can talk with you all and decide if this is relevant to you or not. and you can have that conversation. But our suggestion would be that tonight is an introduction and an overview. The next meeting we would do would be sort of a review of the CWMP and get up to speed. And again, that's really predicated on the thought that everybody dives into those presentations, and we'll show you where those are in a minute and how to do that. We'll dive into those presentations in between so that we can come into here next meeting and not have to re-give those, but pick them up where they left off and answer questions. And the speakers, the vast majority of the speakers are here, particularly for the second night. After that, so if you think about that second meeting as sort of everyone getting up to speed on where the CWMP is currently, then we start to dive into sort of where is the technology right now? How has technology changed? Where are we at with that? That's a place that we envision that you might want some guest speakers to come in and speak to UD toilets as an example. Or, if you wanted Jane to come in and talk about her phosphorus treating septic system. Or if somebody wants to talk about, I don't know, Z, if you'd want to talk about it, or somebody from your group to come in and talk about what the work you guys have been doing with your IA systems. Things of that nature, and bring them in and start to talk through the technology and have that really be focused on, and maybe that's more than one meeting depending on how long it takes us to chew through it, to talk through the technology stuff. Once we kind of get through that, we thought we would jump into the plant. I don't know how much this committee is going to want to get into the plant in terms of where it is and stuff like that. When you watch those presentations, I gave a pretty robust conversation about the plant and what we're doing there and the upgrades that are about to happen or that are happening there, and where that's going. But dedicated or suggested a meeting to just chew into plant, chew into effluent, chew into those conversations. So at that point in time, we'll have talked about the CWMP and kind of baselined on the CWMP. We'll have talked about technologies, and again, that may be more than one meeting, that technology conversation, what's out there. We'll have talked about the plant, and then we start to look at, all right, how do we want to affect the CWMP going forward? And in my mind, you sort of, like the three macro options, you have the do nothing option, leave it alone. You have the we want to completely change everything option, and you have sort of we want to keep a lot of what's there, but also do these other types of things in addition to. So that will be when we start to chew on that. That may be more than a meeting in and of itself just to kind of do that. From there, we'll go back and start to work on drafts with, and start to pull together drafts for the CWMP and for the update. At some point, we'll need to get in front of town council and provide recommendations to town council on that. And then we can start to whatever policies as we go through all of that. I'm assuming there will be policies that will pop up. It's like, oh, that's one. Let's make a list. I'll have Chris just keep a listing tab of these are policies we want to come back to and vet through. We'll come back, hit all the policy questions that we want, and then bring them back into town council in whichever ways felt appropriate. Again, this is a suggestion. This is not what you have to do. You guys are a committee. You have a chair and a vice chair. If you feel otherwise, just communicate with us, please, so we know what to prepare for you, and we can do that. Anybody have any questions on that?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
Part of the town council decision is, of course, going to have to be how to fund whatever we come up with as suggestions. Mm-hmm. How much are we supposed to be collecting that financial information to present to them?
So traditionally, the way the projects have worked, it's DPW creates a capital improvements project and proposes to town council. When we do that, we have to come up with what it will cost to do that. As an example, we just put through the wastewater plant, the nitrogen project upgrade. That was funded for design 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This past April, it was funded for construction. So as part of that, we had to come up with, here's the monies it will cost. Mark Milne looks at, okay, how does that fit into the budget? Does that drive us to override? Does that do that stuff? So there's different entities that have stuff. I think my expectation for you guys is you're almost visioning, if that makes sense. But you have to be cognizant of we would bring in, so if you said we want widget A, I'm making something up, obviously. We need to come in and say, okay, here's the impact of widget A. Here's what widget A would cost. Here's what that stuff. Then you got to decide, is that in context to the other things we understand about what we want to recommend to town council? So I think your financial impact will come through those kinds of discussions rather than you guys having to go out and get cost estimates and do that sort of stuff and come up with numbers and then figure out how that fits into the budget and how that fits with CFAC and all that other stuff. Did I answer your question, or did I just talk around it?
Both.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, what, give me,
No, I think you answered it to the best of,
okay.
at this point, what we can say.
Yeah, the committee's not envisioned to come up with how to fund things necessarily. This is what we think we should do. Look, understand, what the committee comes up with is a recommendation. Town council gets a bite at this apple, and they certainly have a financial mandate in what they do and certainly have to balance that again. So it will probably get balanced in our discussions. It will probably get balanced in your recommendation, and my guess is it would get balanced by town council again. If you bring something to them that's financially unpalatable, they'll probably say, no, go do it again. I don't know that for a fact, but, but I think that's kind of how financially you fit into the picture financially. Other questions such as that? And does anybody over here disagree with that? Okay. All right. So that's a suggestion. I would encourage you to look at that, talk with your chair, decide if those are things you want to proceed with. Chair Horsley, if you could just let me know whether that's what you want to go with or not. We just, particularly for the next meeting, we at least need a meeting ahead to be able to roll into what we're going to do for that and that kind of stuff, to be able to prepare for you what you need. Okay, that brings us to a conversation, and I know I'm running late, I apologize. I was hoping to get you out of here at 7, about scheduling meeting times and durations. I don't know if at this point in time you want to go month to month, or if you want to set a running meeting the third Wednesday of every month, or if you want, how you want to proceed going forward. So what's the will of the committee on that?
Monthly sounds good. Everybody.
We're probably going to have to exceed that at some point.
More frequent at different times, yeah. Do we want to start with monthly, or do we need to start quicker? Maybe more frequent.
Let's start monthly and see where we're at.
Okay.
Get a calendar?
And do we want to pick a regular time like this? Is this a good time, or weekday? And sorry.
Do you think that perhaps they should doodle, send a survey out?
We can happily do that. You probably should have your mics on, by the way, and you're having this conversation, because I'm sure Sarah's going to yell at me in a minute.
Thank you. I was just suggesting that perhaps we could do a survey through a doodle search to see what's the best fit for the people.
Chris, could you do that, please?
I absolutely can. I also, in talking with Sarah Bale from the communications team, I do have availability, like when this room specifically is available, for the week of November 18th, as well as the week of December 16th, which is roughly within that month window, as I assume that was where you were going to go with. If you want me to send out the doodle poll, that's totally fine. If you want to discuss it now, that's totally fine. However you want to do this.
Yeah, will always be in this room, do you think, going? Because at one point I thought it might actually occur at the DPW's office, so.
That is another discussion of this committee, and this topic right now is how we want to hold these meetings. If we would like to continue holding them in this room, that is totally fine. If we would like to hold them on Zoom, that is also totally fine. It is up to the committee to determine how to. It is up to the committee to determine how you want to meet.
I think one thing we can't do is hybrid.
That was my next question.
Yeah. My understanding is that's reserved for council only.
Okay.
That we can't do.
Yeah, Rob, that is correct. I talked with someone, I forget who, but it is definitely town council / it has to be approved by the town council president. So
I would
either
prefer
fully
to have it in
remote or
person.
fully in person.
Yeah, so a couple suggestions I would have. I think we should start in person, and if we want to change down the line, we could consider it. And then the other suggestion, Chris, when you do the poll, the doodle poll, let's not look for one date. Let's try to pick a day, a time we meet each month. That way we can get in our calendars going forward, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes.
And I don't know, do we want to talk right now with those of us who are together? Is this a good time? I know myself, I can't do Thursdays and Fridays, so.
Tuesdays are tough for me, so
Tuesdays are what?
tough for me.
Tough for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Narrows it down. How does Wednesday look?
Mondays or Wednesdays?
If I'm not mistaken, it looks the two dates that you said that Sarah Beal offered were Monday nights, November 18th and December 16th.
Those are the weeks.
I have the weeks.
Oh, the weeks of, I
Yep.
see.
What
Just-
about Mondays? How's it?
Monday's okay.
Anybody got a problem with that? Okay, why don't we try Mondays?
How about this side of the room? I just haven't heard from here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And is this a good time, 6 o'clock? Yeah. Why don't
Fine
we
with
try
me.
that?
Can I
Maybe we don't
ask you a
need to do
question, Mr. Chairman? How long is this from beginning to end in terms
The
of?
meetings?
No, the.
Oh, well, December-
The life tenure of the committee.
December 25 is what we heard, I think, before you got here, Rob.
Okay, all right, okay,
Is our delivery, our deadline, if not before.
all right. Great.
Okay, so are we set on the first one then? What was it, 18th?
Let me check.
Please.
I so move that we make our next meeting at, what was that, 11:18?
18.
At 6 PM.
Second.
It would be 11:18.
And just as a point of order, the room will be available as far as you know, Chris, right? Because there's a lot of committees and a lot of things going on now that may have this room.
Actually, on the 18th, it's after 7 p.m. It would be available.
Figured I'd ask.
So,
All right, did you make the motion for 6 o'clock? I don't remember.
You did.
Oh,
So you want to amend that?
amend to 7 PM? Is that what you said, Chris?
7 p.m., yes. And just a point of order, after we do this, I'm then going to go back to Sarah Beal and say, we definitely want this time. There's no guarantee right now, but should be.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, can we use the room across the hallway here? Is that available?
So what we were told is they wanted us here because they wanted to have the TV to be able to broadcast this and record this.
Seven not good for you?
No, I'm just,
Okay,
just
yeah,
trying to generate a little bit more flexibility.
Right.
Go ahead.
So we have a motion, we don't have a second yet, 7 o'clock on the 18th?
Second.
We do? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, discussion.
All right, so Sarah just buzzed in, which, by the way, becomes yours after this, that the Selectmen's Conference room, she can record in there, so that is an option as well. So tell you what, let's leave it at this. We're going to shoot for the 18th. Let Chris and I talk to Sarah, find out room and place, and we'll get that out to you guys.
So
Does that
either
seem-
6 or 7, is that what we're thinking?
Right. I mean, we know 7 here is open. Let's see if we can get 6 in there.
Yeah.
I can say that in November, the Community Preservation Committee meets here at 5:30, but actually they've been meeting on Zoom. And the Sandy Neck Board meeting meets in the conference room on the 18th at 7 o'clock. So there's a conflict in that room on that day.
All right. Let us talk to Sarah, and we'll find a slot on the 18th.
Get it in calendars?
One of these two.
Just one other, while we're on scheduling, what about the possibility of at least tentatively setting the third Monday of every month at, I guess, 6 or 7 o'clock, just so we can get it in our calendars? We can always change it. Does that sound reasonable?
Luckily, December is the 16th, so it doesn't conflict.
It does not conflict. That'd be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so third Monday, yeah, either 6 or 7, Rob, you'll let us know?
Yep.
Is that, anybody, does that sound good? Do we need to vote on that, or, I don't know, I don't think so.
Let's just figure it out.
Okay.
Okay. That brings us to the fun part, homework. Y'all got homework. Depending on your involvement, you got different levels of homework. So one aspect of homework is there's an open meeting law form that everybody needs to sign and go to the town clerk's office and pass in, and I understand you have to be sworn in at that point in time as well. I don't know if the counselors, who I'm assuming have signed that a million times, if you need to do it again, but everybody else needs to do that. So please, before the next meeting, make sure you get that signed, get into the town's clerk's office, which I will tell you between now and the next meeting, there's this little event that's going on that makes them busy. So please be tolerant of that. But please get into the town clerk's office and get that done. The next piece of this, I will let Chris introduce.
Yeah. So in your packet of all the materials that you got, which if you haven't gotten, I think everyone got one, but they're all the way over on the other side next to Rob, is a sheet of paper that, as Rob says, has coffee stains all over it. Those are QR codes. I thought I'd be, technologically relevant. There is a series of 6 videos. Rob already mentioned 2 of them. They were the town council meetings. What we would love, and what you really need to do, is to review the videos. 4 of them are less than 45 minutes. They're all very interesting. The 2 town council ones, I advise, while you're cooking dinner, put one on.
Wait a minute, I'm on one of those. Those things are awesome.
Oh, no, they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. They're awesome. But sitting through 4 hours of a video can be quite a lot. I did it my first week here. And, but I will say every single part of it, and not just bragging because you're right there, Rob, but the part where Rob talks about like what the actual problem is, it clicked at that moment. Now, you may be wondering, hang on, I don't want to scan this QR code. I can't click that on a piece of paper. It's a good thing, let me get this, that we went ahead. It's right there. Where is it?
Town website.
There we go. You can get to this page one of 2 ways. You can either type in barnstablewaterresources.com in your address bar, or on the town website right here where it says Barnstable Water Resources. We'll pull up this page. If you look at all the tabs up along this top of the page, you will see this last tab, the ad hoc committee. Wow! And once it loads, those are all the videos that are on that exact same sheet. These documents, we would also like you to review. These are all the documents that are already publicly available. There's nothing different about any of them. They're simply, we wanted to put everything for you guys in one place. So this is the entire comprehensive wastewater management plan. It is 800 plus pages. It will probably take your computer about 5 minutes to load. Homeowner sewer connection guide, you guys actually have the physical copy of that, and then the sewer connection process. Town resources, just in case you want them. One of the other items that you have is the helpful info, and this is that glossary of terms and the acronyms that Dan mentioned earlier. One of the things I've learned in the month that I've been in this department is, we love acronyms. But a lot of times you're sitting in a meeting and you're like, what on earth did you just say? So that glossary of terms and that acronyms cheat sheet by all means. And if you ever come across an acronym that you're like, what? Just email me, Rob, Dan, whoever. Just say, hey, we were talking about, Dan, Rob the other day sent me an email that said FYSA, and I'm like, I don't know that one. I asked and he said, it's for your situational awareness. So along with those videos, again, I get that the 2 town council ones are long, but I cannot stress enough how excellent they are. And I'm, again, not just saying that because many of the speakers are here tonight. Underneath your resources, you will also see the meeting schedule as we set up additional meetings. I will post them here. I'm just saying this to be fully transparent. This is not the official schedule. This is not the official notice that is all on the town website. It goes through the town clerk and all of that stuff. This is just a secondary informational thing. Once we have the video for it, it'll go here. Once we approve the minutes, it'll also go here. So that is that. Again, also, because you're on the Barnstable Water Resources website, look through the Barnstable Water Resources website. Kelly built this website and it is phenomenal. It contains just about all the information that you could possibly know, or need to know, I should say. Just take some time, read through it, and just explore it and, absorb the information.
So what we hope to do with this is make sort of again, none of these are the official places where this stuff will live, but it's meant to try to be a warehouse where your stuff is. For instance, if there's a good article somebody has that they want we could put it on here, people can come look at it, that stuff. So that was the thinking when we came up with this. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Obviously, this can grow and change as we go forward with this process. But we're trying to make it easier in the sense that if you go here, hopefully anything we're asking you to do is here. You can kind of look at it. You don't have to go looking through 16 different things, or as Chris said, the coffee stains, which I have no clue how to use those.
Excuse me, are there hard copies of any of those documents?
Yes. We can make hard copies of any of it. Well, the CWMP, I would ask you to think hard about because it is 800 pages long. But other ones we can certainly, videos you can't make hard copy of video.
No.
But yeah, we can make hard copies of things if we need to. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And this is a great resource for us to just go to directly. I was wondering, perhaps under town resources, are there links to the email addresses for the staff?
We can do that. We just came up with this morning, so
Yes,
it's in its infancy.
Email us.
I will absolutely add in the email of all the
Or
support staff.
contact information. Just
Do you want your contact, the committee want their individual contact information on there as well, or would you prefer that not be there?
you can put the
On that,
conference on it.
I think, obviously, we'll discuss that later. I think it is worth at least putting your names on that page, whether you want your emails, I'm assuming not your phone numbers, but I do assume that at least your name.
Perhaps you can make a CWMP committee email address.
Yeah.
That's just a collective thing that
Talk
can
to
go
IT.
to the whole committee.
I will talk to IT about that.
And I, for one, wouldn't mind, I'll read it obviously, but I wouldn't mind a open meeting law 101
So that will,
view of some kind.
there's a form you've got to read that's, where's that? Right
So
there.
actually, that form is just printed off. This bottom link, sorry, it's not showing very well on the projector. This link, once it opens, this is the open meeting law guide and educational materials sent out by the Office of the Attorney General for Massachusetts. I would love to tell you that there's an open meeting law 101 document packet brochure. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any. We did ask the town clerk, but we had no success in that.
So I believe what that form is to say that you've reviewed this, so you need to kind of poke through this. If people wish, I can ask Tom to come in and speak to you about that if you want. Take a look at that and come talk to us next month. And if you feel like, in addition to what we've seen, we'd like more information, then we can get that to you, or we can get that for you.
And just to add to the open meeting law, just so you all know, I guess this is kind of my open meeting law 101 information. The biggest thing is the agenda and the minutes. The agenda is posted at least 48 hours prior to the meeting, and then the meeting minutes are reviewed, voted on by the committee in a timely manner, I think is what the actual law says. Typically, that's interpreted as 30 days or the next meeting. That's a lot of what I'll be doing. So that element of the open meeting law, yes, it is still your, quote, responsibility to ensure that it gets done. But that is just bugging me and saying, hey, where are those meeting minutes? Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, so that was the homework part. The next part about that is, does anybody on staff want closing comments? Mr. Chair, at this point, we've reached the end of the agenda. I'll let you decide if you wish to close your meeting or continue on with further discussions.
Just one question, Rob. This form, open meeting law, this is the one you referred to earlier that we need to go to the town clerk with, is that right? Each one of us, so there's a form
Yes.
here. And so we need to get that done by when? The next meeting?
I would get it done by the next meeting.
Okay.
And again, please be tolerant to the fact that, there's the election in between.
Yeah.
So the clerk's office is going to be pretty busy up to the 5th.
And
Okay.
sorry, just one last thing. If you have any questions, any issues with the getting to the town clerk, any questions as you're going to sleep tonight and you're like, oh, I wish I had asked that, email Rob, email waterresources@town.barnstable.ma.us. We will happily address it and get you on your way and make sure all your questions are answered.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for Rob? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you for your time.